Hello friends, I am glad to see you again. Today I'm going to talk about the HOA that won't let me onto my father's farm. The day an HOA tried to ban me from my own family farm was the day I learned how far petty people will go when they get a clipboard and a tiny bit of power. I'm not exaggerating. They literally called 911 on me while I was standing in my dad's driveway holding a bag of groceries and a box of meds from the pharmacy and told the dispatcher I was a stranger trespassing on private property. The property I legally own half of. Let me back up. My name is Callan. I grew up on a small farm my dad bought way before the area turned into rows of beige houses with decorative mailboxes and strict rules about lawn height. When I was a kid, our nearest neighbor was half a mile away. By the time I hit my 30s, there was a whole subdivision wrapped around us like a beige donut. The farm was grandfathered in, so we weren't under the HOA. My dad refused to sell when the developer came knocking years ago. They built around us instead, and as part of their approvals, the county required them to keep the old farm road open as an access easement. It's not glamorous, packed gravel, potholes, and a sagging fence, but it's ours, recorded in the county records and everything. A few years ago, Dad put my name on the deed, joint tenants with right of survivorship. It was his way of saying, "You'll always have a home," after my first attempt at city life imploded. I moved a couple of hours away for work, but I visited at least once a month. When his health started to slide, nothing dramatic, just age, a couple of falls, some heart issues, I started coming every weekend. That's when the HOA really started noticing me. Their subdivision shares the farm road for access to a tiny nature trail they advertise in their glossy brochures. The trail is basically a loop that runs near our fence line where people let their dogs do their business and sometimes throw trash over when they think nobody's watching. The HOA president at the time, a guy named Darvin, and his vice president, a woman named Merrill, had decided the farm was an eyesore, too rustic for their taste. They hated the tractors, the occasional smell of manure when Dad would still spread some, the rooster that crowed because he hadn't read the HOA bylaws about quiet enjoyment. They tried to push my dad to sell. He said no, politely at first, less politely later. I wasn't around for the early years of drama. When I finally moved back to my home state after Dad's second hospital stay, I came into a situation that was already tense but manageable. A few nasty letters sent to Dad about odor nuisance and visual blight, a couple of calls to animal control that went nowhere, some passive-aggressive comments shouted from the nature trail by people who didn't realize we could hear them. Annoying, but nothing like what was coming. On the day everything blew up, it was a humid Saturday morning in late summer. Dad had been discharged from the hospital the day before. His doctor wanted him taking it easy, so I'd gone into town to get his prescriptions, some groceries, and a new blood pressure cuff because his old one was older than I was. I turned off the main road onto the shared farm road like I'd done literally hundreds of times. It used to just be an open entrance, but a year or two back, the HOA had put up a metal gate with a keypad for residents, plus a side-swinging section that was supposed to be left unlocked for us and for deliveries. The easement agreement they signed with the county, and my dad specifically said they couldn't obstruct our access. So what did they do? They put a chain and padlock through the side gate temporarily after some package thefts. Then temporarily became, "Oops, we must have forgotten." And then it turned into, "We think all visitors should check in with the HOA office first." I'd already complained multiple times. So had Dad. The county had already told them once to knock it off. They'd misunderstood and said it was for security and promised not to interfere again. That morning, the main gate was open because someone was driving out as I approached. I slipped in behind them, waved a thanks, and kept going. I made it maybe 50 yards before a golf cart whipped out of a side street and blocked the road. I actually laughed at first because it looked so ridiculous. This little plastic cart parked sideways across our rutted farm road like some miniature checkpoint. In the cart were 3 people. In the driver's seat was Merrill, vice president of the HOA, a woman in her 50s with that rigid haircut that never moves, and big sunglasses like she was permanently on her way to a country club brunch. Next to her was another board member I recognized by sight, a guy named Royce, who always wore polo shirts tucked way too tight. In the back was a younger woman I didn't know, clutching a binder. I slowed to a stop, rolled down my window, and tried to keep my voice neutral. "Morning," I said. "Can I get by? I need to get to my dad's place." Merrill didn't move the cart. She didn't even look at me at first. She took her time, turning her face toward me like she was doing me a favor. "This road is for residents and authorized guests only," she said. "You're not on the list." I blinked. "I live 2 hours away. I'm not going to be on any HOA list. But my dad owns the farm at the end of this road, and so do I. I'm here every weekend." Royce folded his arms like he was the muscle. "This is private property," he said. "Right?" I said slowly. "That's why I'm using the private road to get to my private property." The younger woman in the back flipped open her binder. "You're not on the approved vendor list," she said, like she was catching me in some gotcha. "Are you making a delivery?" "I'm making a delivery of blood pressure medicine to my father," I said. I held up the pharmacy bag. "He came home from the hospital yesterday." Meryl didn't even look at the bag. "We've had reports of suspicious vehicles driving through," she said. "For all I know, you're casing houses." I laughed once, a short, incredulous sound. "Seriously? I've been driving this same truck down this same road for years. You've seen me before." Royce shook his head. "We can't be expected to recognize every random person who wants to claim they belong here. And anyway," Meryl cut in, "there's a process if you want access. Your father, if that's even true, can submit your information to the HOA for review. Until then, you are not authorized to be on this road." "Lady," I said, and had to swallow down about 3 other words I really wanted to use. "My authorization is recorded in the county land records. I don't need your permission to get to my dad's farm." That's when she said it. "You are not allowed to be here even if it is your property." She said it slow, like she was trying to make sure it sank in, like she thought I was too dense to understand. I just stared at her. "Do you hear yourself?" I asked. "That's not how any of this works." "We're done here," she said, and pulled a phone out of her bag. "You can turn around, or you can wait for the authorities." I assumed she meant private security or something. She stepped out of the cart, walked a few steps away, and I heard her say very clearly, "Yes, hello, I'd like to report a trespasser. He's refusing to leave. I feel very unsafe." My stomach dropped. "Are you calling 911?" I demanded. She didn't answer me. She angled her body away like I wasn't there. I put my truck in park, turned off the engine so there'd be no argument about me trying to run them over or something, and got out. I kept my hands visible and my voice calm, even though my heart was pounding. Royce immediately raised his phone and started recording. "Sir, do not approach her," he said in this weird fake official voice, like he was trying to narrate his future courtroom testimony. "Relax," I said. "We're all standing on the same dirt road. Nobody's approaching anyone." "Stay where you are," Meryl said over her shoulder into the phone. "He's getting out of his vehicle now. He looks very aggressive. I'm not a small guy, and I know that. I also know how that can be twisted. So I took 2 exaggerated steps backward and leaned against my truck. I pulled out my own phone and hit record. "This is Callan," I said, more for my own benefit than theirs. "I'm standing on the access road to my father's farm, which I own half of. The HOA board has blocked the road, and Meryl is calling 911 to report me as a trespasser." The younger woman in the golf cart shifted uncomfortably. "Maybe we should just let him through," she muttered. Meryl snapped her fingers at her like she was a dog. "Do not undermine me in front of a potential criminal, Elia. Potential criminal for driving home." I checked the time on my phone. Dad would be wondering where I was. He might try to walk up the driveway to meet me, which he absolutely did not need to be doing with his balance issues. "Meryl," I said, trying one more time, "my father was discharged yesterday. He's not steady on his feet. If I don't show up soon, he's going to worry and go looking for me. If he falls again because you wanted to play checkpoint, that's on you." She narrowed her eyes. "If there really is an elderly person on that property, perhaps it's time someone from Adult Protective Services checked on the conditions there." That did it. I stopped trying to reason with her. "Cool," I said tightly. "We'll all just wait for the deputies then." We didn't have to wait long. The county sheriff's office isn't far, and I guess trespasser refusing to leave, HOA feels unsafe, gets bumped up the list. 2 patrol SUVs rolled up about 8 minutes later, lights on but no sirens. My heart was hammering so hard I could feel it in my teeth. I put both my hands up as they approached because I am not trying to be a headline. One deputy, a tall guy with a shaved head and a calm expression, came toward me. The other went to talk to Meryl. "Afternoon," the deputy with me said. "What's going on today?" I kept my voice steady. "Afternoon, deputy. My name's Callan. My father and I own the farm at the end of this road. I'm here with his medication. The HOA board blocked the road and called 911, claiming I'm trespassing." "Do you have ID on you, sir?" "Of course." I handed it over. "And I can pull up a copy of the deed on my phone if you've got signal out here." He glanced at my license, then at my truck, then back at me. "You live 2 hours away?" he asked, reading the address. "Yes, sir," I said. "I work there. My dad lives here full-time. I spend weekends here and I'm co-owner on the deed." He nodded slowly. "Okay, just hang tight for me a second, all right? Don't go anywhere." I gave a short, humorless laugh. Not exactly an option right now. Over by the golf cart, I could hear Meryl's voice carrying. "We have a right to control who comes into our neighborhood," she was saying. He refused to identify himself and became confrontational. Royce chimed in. I felt threatened. He got out of his truck and walked toward us. "I took 2 steps, I muttered under my breath. The deputy with me stepped away and spoke into his radio. I saw him glance at my truck plates, then down the road toward the farm, then back at me. He walked over to the other deputy, they conferred, and then both of them came back to me. "All right, Mr. Callan," the shaved-head deputy said. "Do you have that deed you mentioned?" I already had the county property records site open. I handed him my phone with the parcel info showing. My dad's name and my name, both listed as owners. "Okay," he said after a minute. "This matches what we're seeing on our end. The farm is not part of the HOA. The access easement for this road is in your chain of title." "Exactly," I said, trying not to sound too triumphant yet. He turned to Meryl and the others. "Ma'am, sir," he said, "we've confirmed that Mr. Callan is an owner of the property at the end of this road. He has a legal right to access it. You can't block him." Meryl's mouth opened and closed. "But he's not a resident," she said finally. "He's a property owner," the deputy replied. "That's what matters here." "He doesn't live here full-time," Royce interjected. "We've never seen him at the meetings. He's not on any roster." The deputy gave them both a patient look I recognized as, "I have explained this as simply as I can. The sheriff's office enforces state law and county ordinances," he said. "Your HOA rules are a civil matter, and they do not override easement rights or property ownership." Meryl's face flushed a blotchy red. "He was aggressive," she insisted. "He got out of his vehicle and started recording us." "And you called 911, the deputy said, "which is for emergencies. You told the dispatcher you felt unsafe because there was a trespasser refusing to leave. Now that we're here, it's clear this is a civil disagreement between an HOA and a property owner, not a criminal trespass." "I do feel unsafe," she said, doubling down. "He's glaring at me right now." I was literally leaning against my truck, arms crossed, watching the conversation. I probably did look annoyed, but I wasn't moving toward anyone. The deputy sighed. "You have the right to feel however you feel, ma'am, but you also have responsibilities when you call 911. Please do not use emergency services to enforce HOA rules. If you continue to do so, you could be cited for misuse of the system." Her jaw dropped like he'd slapped her. I stayed quiet because I knew if I opened my mouth, I'd ruin this for myself. "Now," the deputy went on, "I'm going to ask you to move your vehicle and allow Mr. Callan to pass. If you refuse, you could be cited for obstructing a roadway." That finally got through. Royce sputtered about having rights as an association, but he climbed into the golf cart and reversed it just enough for me to squeeze my truck past. As I drove by, Meryl leaned out and hissed, "This isn't over." I smiled at her without showing teeth. "You're absolutely right," I said. "It's not." By the time I got up the long driveway to the farmhouse, my hands were shaking. Dad was on the porch, one hand on the railing, peering down toward the road. "You took your time," he said, but his voice was more worried than accusing. "HOA roadblock," I said, trying to sound casual as I climbed out. "They called the sheriff on me." Dad's eyebrows shot up. "For what, existing?" "Pretty much." I walked the bags up to him. "Let's get you sitting down, and then I'll tell you everything." Inside, I helped him to his worn recliner, got him some water, and set up his meds. My hands were steadier now, but my brain was buzzing. The whole time, one phrase kept echoing in my head. "You are not allowed to be here even if it is your property." Once Dad was settled, I told him the whole story. Golf cart, 911, deputies, everything. His face got more and more stormy. "I told you they were getting worse," he said. "Last month they sent a letter saying I had to cease all agricultural operations within 60 days because of a new neighborhood tranquility policy. I nearly dropped the pill bottle." "They what?" He fumbled in the side table drawer and pulled out a thick envelope. "I was going to show you this weekend." The letter was printed on fancy paper with the HOA's logo at the top. It used a lot of words to say basically, "Your farm is noisy, smelly, and our residents don't like looking at it. Stop farming or we'll fine you." "They can't do this," I said, hearing my own voice go flat and cold. "They think they can do a lot of things," Dad said. "I've been ignoring them. Isn't that what you said to do? I had at first, when it was just nasty letters and empty threats. I'd told him to hang on to them but not respond, because responding only seemed to encourage them. But now they'd escalated to blocking access and calling 911. This isn't annoying neighbors anymore, I said. This is interfering with your medical care, with our property rights. This is dangerous. Dad looked suddenly tired, older than his years. I don't have the energy for a big fight, son, he said softly. That's okay, I said, because I do. That was the moment something clicked in my head. I'm not a naturally confrontational person. I don't go looking for fights, but I am stubborn, and I am very, very good at research. If they wanted to play the "it's private property, so we make the rules" game, I was going to learn every rule on the board and then beat them with it. The first thing I did was start a folder, actually several folders. On my laptop, I created one for farm documents, and inside it, subfolders: deed and title, HOA letters, easement agreement, county codes, sheriff incident, medical issues, and MSC. I scanned every letter Dad had stuffed into drawers over the past 3 years. I pulled the easement agreement from the county's website and saved it. I wrote down the incident number from the deputy's visit, which they'd given me before they left. Then I started making phone calls. First was to the county planning office, where a very tired-sounding clerk named Jonah confirmed that, yes, the farm was zoned agricultural and had been for decades. No, the zoning had not been changed when the subdivision went in. Yes, there was a recorded access easement for the farm road. No, the HOA had no authority to unilaterally adjust that easement. Honestly, Jonah said in the tone of someone who has seen this movie before, we've had complaints about that HOA already. You're not the first person they've annoyed with their gate. Complaints from who? I asked. Can't say, he replied. But I can tell you there's a file. If they're blocking legally recorded access, document it. Photos, videos, dates, times. If they do it again after being told not to, we can escalate it through our enforcement process. Good to know, I said. What about them trying to make my dad stop farming? On his own land that's zoned agricultural? Jonah made a little scoffing sound. They'd need a change in zoning or some kind of nuisance action. And even then, it's uphill for them. Their covenants don't apply to properties outside their recorded plat. They can't regulate your dad's land unless he voluntarily subjected it to their authority. He definitely did not, I said. Then they're bluffing, Jonah said. But sometimes people don't know that, and they get scared and comply. You'd be amazed how often that happens. I thanked him and hung up, angry on behalf of every person who'd ever gotten a scary-looking letter and just given in because it was easier. Next, I called a friend from college, Avery, who'd gone to law school and now did a mix of real estate and general civil work. We hadn't talked in a while, but when I texted them, got an HOA trying to block access to a farm I co-own. Can you talk? They called me immediately. I laid out the situation as clearly as I could. The history of the farm, the HOA development, the easement, the gate, the letters, the 911 call. Avery listened without interrupting, then said, "Okay, wow. First, I'm sorry you're dealing with this. Second, they're way out over their skis. Do I need to hire you?" I asked. "Because I will. I just need to know what we're looking at here. I can't practice in your state," they said, "but I can help you figure out what kind of lawyer you need and what questions to ask. And I can tell you that what they did today, calling 911 on a known property owner to try to enforce HOA rules, is not just annoying. It could be considered a false report, depending on what exactly they told dispatch. At a minimum, it's a misuse of emergency services." I thought of Meryl saying, "I feel very unsafe," while I stood 10 feet away with my hands at my sides. "What can we actually do?" I asked. "Short term," Avery said. "Document everything. Send a certified letter to the HOA demanding they cease interfering with access to your property and stop harassing your father. Reference the easement and the zoning. Copy the county attorney's office and possibly the state agency that oversees HOA compliance, if your state has one. And long-term? Long-term, they said. You might be looking at a civil action for declaratory judgment on your rights under the easement and an injunction against them blocking you. Maybe damages for interference with your property rights. Maybe even a claim for intentional infliction of emotional distress if your dad's health has been affected. Though that's harder. What they did with 911 is not nothing. I looked over at Dad, dozing in his recliner with the TV murmuring softly. His blood pressure was already up, I said quietly. I don't want him dealing with these people. Then you take point, Avery said. Be their worst nightmare. Calm, organized, and absolutely relentless. A slow, determined feeling settled over me. I could do calm. I could do organized. I could definitely do relentless. Okay, I said, game on. That was the start of my plan. But life doesn't pause so you can wage a neat, tidy war against an HOA. Other things were happening at the same time, pulling in different directions. One of those things was my sister. My older sister, Lainey, had moved out of state years ago and rarely came back. She and Dad loved each other, but they butted heads constantly. She'd been quietly pressuring him to sell the farm for years. "You could have a comfortable retirement," she'd say. "You're one fall away from needing assisted living anyway. Why are you clinging to this place?" I'd always been the one saying, "It's his land, let him decide." Now suddenly there was an HOA doing the dirty work for her. When I called to tell her about what had happened, I expected her to be on our side. I thought, surely we can at least agree that random board members shouldn't be calling 911 on family. Instead I got, well, you have to see it from their perspective too. I had to hold the phone away from my ear for a second. From their perspective, I repeated, they're the ones blocking the road and misusing emergency services. You show up every weekend driving an old truck up and down a shared road, she said. You're not on any list. You don't live there full time. They don't know you. They're just trying to keep their neighborhood safe. I own half of this place, I said. I'm not just some random visitor. On paper, sure, she said, and the way she said on paper made my teeth clench. But you know what I mean. You have your own life. Dad is alone out there most of the time, and he's not going to be able to keep up with that property much longer. Maybe this is a sign it's time to think about selling. Oh, that's convenient, I snapped. An HOA harasses him and your takeaway is that we should give them what they want and sell to some developer? She went quiet for a beat. When she spoke again, her voice was cooler. I'm just saying you might be throwing yourself into a big, stressful fight over a place that isn't sustainable long term. Have you really thought about what happens when Dad can't live there anymore? Are you planning to quit your job and become a full-time farmer? I didn't have a good answer for that. The question had been lurking in the back of my mind for months. Growing teeth. I could work remotely part of the time, but not all the time. The farm didn't make a lot of money, but when Dad was healthier, he'd always done just enough with crops and a small herd of cattle to keep the property taxes manageable. I don't know yet, I said honestly, but I do know this. Nobody is going to bully my father off his land while I'm breathing. If we sell someday, it'll be because we chose to, not because some HOA board made his life miserable. She sighed. Just don't do anything impulsive, okay? Impulsive would have been yelling at them in front of the deputies, I said. What I'm doing is the opposite of impulsive. It's very, very methodical, which is honestly scarier, she muttered. Keep me posted, please, even if we disagree. I will, I said, but I'm not backing down. After that call, I realized this wasn't just about a nosy HOA. It was also about what kind of future the farm could have, and whether I was willing to rearrange my life to protect it. The answer, it turned out, was yes. That weekend, between helping Dad and making phone calls and organizing documents, I also started something else. I began walking the property line more often. Partly it was to clear my head. Partly it was because I'd noticed more trash along the fence lately. Fast food bags, drink cups, little plastic dog waste bags that people had apparently decided to throw over instead of carrying to a trash can. On the second day of my new routine, I found something that added another plot line to this whole mess, a plastic leash tangled in our fence, and a gap where 3 fence boards had been broken. On the HOA side of the fence, about 20 yards away, a little handmade sign on a stake read, "Future Dog Park, coming soon." I stared at it for a long time. They're not serious, I said aloud to no one. Of course they were. A few days later, I found out just how serious. On Monday, I drove back to my city place for work. Tuesday night, Dad called. "You sitting down?" he asked. "That's not how I like my conversations with you to start," I said. "What's up?" "Got a flyer taped to my mailbox," he said. "They're real proud of it. Coming this fall, your new neighborhood dog park, featuring double-gated entry, shaded seating, and secure fencing along the scenic farm boundary." I closed my eyes. "They put that in writing." "Oh yeah," he said, "with little clip art dogs and everything." "Did they ask your permission to use your fence as their secure fencing?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Son," Dad said dryly, "these are the same folks who told you you weren't allowed on your own property. What do you think?" I thought a lot of words I didn't say out loud. "Okay," I said instead. "Here's what we're going to do. First, I want you to put that flyer in the folder with the other HOA junk. Second, you are not to confront anybody about this in person. If you see them messing with the fence again, you call me. Then you call the non-emergency sheriff line and report property damage and trespass. I don't like running to the law, he said reflexively. Yeah, well, neither do I said. But they brought the law into it when they dialed 911 on me. We're done playing nice. After we hung up, I sent Avery a scan of the flyer and photos of the broken fence boards and leash. Their response took 3 minutes. That dog park might be your leverage. Call planning again. See if they pulled permits. Also, a farm next to a dog park? Have they met livestock? This could be a liability nightmare for them. Liability. My brain clicked into a new gear. The next morning, I called Jonah at the county planning office again. Hey, it's Callan, I said. The guy with the farm in the middle of that subdivision. I think your favorite HOA is planning a dog park on the property line. He made a noise that might have been a laugh. What makes you say that? Flyers, I said, and they've already busted my fence in one spot. There's a sign on their side that says future dog park coming soon. Does something like that need any kind of county approval? Depends, he said. I heard keys clicking in the background. If it's purely internal to their platted common area and not changing drainage or adding structures, probably not much. But you said dog park? Yep. And you're zoned agricultural, he said. You've got livestock currently? A small herd of cattle, I said. A few goats, some chickens. We don't run hundreds of head or anything, but it's an active farm. He hummed. Most states have some version of right to farm protection. Ours does. It basically says if you're running a lawful agricultural operation and somebody builds houses next to you later, they can't call your normal operations a nuisance. It also gets hairy when you put things like dog parks next to livestock. Stray dogs, broken fences, spooked animals, liability. Like your friend said, can they use my existing fence as part of their dog park? I asked. Because they sure seem to be planning on it. If the fence is on your property line and you built it, no, he said. They can't rely on your structure for their amenity without your consent, and if they altered your fence without permission, that's property damage. What happens if I send you photos? I asked. I can open an inquiry, he said. We're already watching them because of the easement situation. If they're putting up amenities that change traffic patterns or use of the access road, we may want to look at that too. Email me everything you've got. So I did. Photos, flyer, sign, the works. That weekend, I drove back down to the farm with a trunk full of supplies. Motion-activated trail cameras, bright yellow private property no trespassing signs, and a handheld GPS unit I'd borrowed from a friend who did land surveying. I spent Saturday morning walking the fence line with Dad, the GPS, and a printed copy of the original plat map. We marked the actual boundary points with bright survey flags. In 2 different spots, the HOA's flimsy split-rail decorative fencing crossed 6 to 8 inches inside our property line, just enough that at a casual glance it looked like the line. They thought they were being clever, Dad muttered, shaking his head. Or they thought we'd never check, I said. In the section where they wanted their dog park, their side had no fence at all, just our boards. Now with a gap where they'd broken through. I replaced the broken boards and reinforced that whole run with heavier posts. On our side of the fence, I installed the cameras, angled so they'd catch anyone climbing over or messing with it. Next, I put up the signs. One went on a stout post right where the nature trail skirted the property line. Private property boundary. No trespassing. Livestock and working dogs present. Do not enter. Another went on our side of the farm road facing traffic. Notice you are entering an active agricultural operation. Expect noise, odors, and slow-moving equipment. By proceeding, you acknowledge and accept these conditions. Dad watched me sink that one in with a post driver, his eyebrows raised. Little dramatic, isn't it? He asked. Maybe, I said. But Jonah said the county likes it when farms post notices like this near new developments. Helps with the right to farm protections. People can't say they weren't warned. He chuckled. And it'll make Meryl's eyelid twitch every time she drives by. That's just a bonus, I said. Sunday morning, the cameras paid off faster than I expected. I was at the kitchen table helping Dad sort his meds into a weekly organizer when my phone pinged with a motion notification. Then another, and another. I opened the feed. There, in high definition, were 2 men in matching polo shirts and work boots, carrying rolled-up chain link and a post-hole digger. Behind them, Meryl in a visor, pointing at our fence and the ground next to it like she was directing a film crew. They climbed right over our fence, dropped down onto our side, and started measuring from our boards back toward the HOA side. One guy holding the tape, the other spraying lines on the ground. Unbelievable, I said. They're literally using our land as their staging area. Dad craned his neck to see the tiny screen. That's the guy who runs the landscaping company, he said. They use him for all the common areas. Not today they don't, I said. I called the non-emergency sheriff's line and explained what was happening. The dispatcher took our address and said she'd send a car. Then and only then I stepped out onto the porch and walked down toward the commotion. I made sure to stay well on our side of the fence. I did not raise my voice. I did not step toward anyone. I just held my phone in one hand like an extra camera. "Morning," I called. "You gentlemen know you're standing on my property?" The two workers froze. Meryl turned, annoyance flashing across her face. "This is common area," she said. "We're marking the fence line for our dog park." "Actually," I said calmly, "the common area ends about a foot on your side of that fence. You're on my side right now. I have the plat maps, the GPS readings, and the county on speed dial if you'd like to argue about it." She rolled her eyes. "You can't just put a fence anywhere you feel like and claim the land," she said. "We had this surveyed when the subdivision went in." "Cool," I said. "Then you won't mind the county coming out to reconcile your survey with ours. In the meantime, you're trespassing." One of the workers shifted awkwardly. "Ma'am," he said to Meryl, "we didn't know—" "Don't talk to him," she snapped. "He's trying to intimidate you." "I literally called you gentlemen and asked a question," I said. "If that intimidates you, that's not my problem." Blue lights flickered at the end of the road. Meryl saw them and smirked. "Good," she said. "Maybe now we can finally have you removed." "Did you call them too?" I asked. "No," she said smugly, "but I'm glad they're here." The same shaved-head deputy from the easement incident got out of the patrol SUV. When he saw me, then Meryl, then the fence line, I saw a whole silent conversation happen on his face. "Morning again," he said. "What's going on today?" "I called," I said, before Meryl could launch into anything. "We've got HOA contractors on our side of the fence marking for a dog park without permission." "We are on common area," Meryl cut in. "He's lying. He just doesn't want the dog park." The deputy raised a hand. "Okay, one at a time," he said. He checked the fence, the spray paint, the nervous workers, then pulled up the county GIS on his tablet. "According to the county," he said, "this fence line is the boundary of Mr. Callan's parcel. The HOA common area starts on the other side." Meryl tried to argue about our survey, but she didn't have it with her. He told the workers to get back on the HOA side and asked if I wanted to press charges. For a second, I wanted to say yes, just to watch her panic. But the workers looked miserable. "They're here because she told them this was HOA land," I said. "Just file the report. Note that I've already contacted planning and that my fence was damaged last week." He agreed, warned Meryl to stop playing games at the property line, and left. She glared at me. "You think you're clever. This neighborhood decides who belongs here. Not you." I glanced at the blinking camera. "You really said that out loud," I told her. I didn't give her time to regroup. I hired Jade, a local attorney who sent the board a brutal demand letter. They doubled down with a community-wide smear letter, so I showed up to their emergency meeting with a folder of deeds, sheriff's reports, and county emails. I kept it simple. We owned the farm, the easement was real, the deputies had already warned them about 911, and their contractors had trespassed building a dog park on our side of the fence. Residents were not thrilled to learn their dues were funding that stunt. Talk of a recall started that night. Within a month, Meryl and 2 others were voted out. The county shut down the dog park on our fence plan. Faced with our lawsuit and their insurer breathing down their neck, the new board settled. Written acknowledgement of our easement, a promise never to weaponize 911 against us again, a rebuilt fence to ag standards, a correction letter clearing my name, and our legal fees paid. The dog park went somewhere else. Trash along our fence dropped. Dad and I put the farm in a conservation easement so it stays a farm long after we're gone. Laney, seeing I was serious, stopped pushing him to sell. Now Dad sits on his porch in peace, and when I drive down that road, nobody questions whether I belong. Friends, thank you. See you soon.